If you told me graduating with honors would land me right back in my childhood bedroom, complete with glow-in-the-dark stars and a broken ceiling fan blade from a 2011 Beyblade incident, I'd have laughed in your face. Then cried. Then asked if there was a refund policy for college degrees. But that's where I landed. I'm Ethan Rhodes. 22. Just earned a finance degree from Ohio State. Moved back to Cedar Ridge with a car full of thrift store furniture, and the leftover hope that my parents would let me crash for a few months while I got on my feet. You know, stack some cash, get a job, lease a studio apartment, and start existing without 37 family group texts a day. Susan and Rick, my loving yet micromanaging parents, welcomed me home like I was a visiting celebrity, for about 5 minutes. By day 2, I was already being asked, "Can you mow the lawn since you're just on your laptop anyway?" I wasn't. Just on my laptop. I was applying to jobs like a man trying to dodge debt collectors, swiping between Indeed and existential dread. Luckily, I landed one. Financial analyst gig with a local firm. It wasn't Wall Street, but it came with decent pay, health insurance, and a free keycard that made me feel like a grown-up. I even offered to chip in for groceries and utilities. Figured it was the least I could do while using their hot water and Wi-Fi. But apparently, in my family, chipping in translates to, "You now run the household." It started small, picking up milk, unclogging the drain, fixing the Wi-Fi router Dad kicked during a football game. Then it snowballed. I became the resident tech support, on-call dog walker for Mom's rescue mutt Stanley, who hates me, by the way, and the human reminder system for every birthday, doctor's appointment, and garbage day. Every time I so much as mention moving out, the air turned thick with guilt. "You'd really leave us with all this responsibility?" Mom would say, one hand on her wine glass, the other pointing at the TV remote like she forgot how it worked. Dad's go-to line was, "You're saving money. We're not charging you rent. What more could you want?" Maybe some boundaries, Rick. Maybe I want a single morning without being asked, "Hey Ethan, while you're up, can you clean the gutters?" Even my high school bedroom betrayed me. Same twin mattress. Same March Madness 2012 poster curling at the edges. And every time I tried to feel like an adult, I had to walk past my old dresser, still labeled with masking tape from when I went to summer camp. Still I stayed. Because I had a plan, save enough to move out without becoming one of those pasta 5 nights a week guys who lives with 6 roommates and a raccoon in the attic. I was on track. Until a Friday evening derailed everything. It was one of those days where nothing smelled like disaster. Mom was baking banana bread. Dad was yelling at the news. And I was on the couch, thinking maybe I could survive this setup for just 2 more months. Then the door opened. "Hello?" my sister sang from the entryway. Lindsay. My older sister. 30, Instagram perfect, and always carrying more bags than necessary. She strolled in wearing sunglasses indoors, followed by her husband Brad, who looked like a walking LinkedIn profile, and 2 hyper kids, Emma, 5, and Noah, 3, who immediately began using the couch as a trampoline. No warning. No text. No. "Hey, we're driving in from Columbus." Just boom. Instant chaos. "I'm so glad we're here," Lindsay said, dropping her duffel bag onto the hardwood with a thud. "We just needed a breather. Brad's been under pressure, and I've been so mentally drained." Mom squealed and pulled her into a hug like the Pope had just arrived. Dad emerged with his rare smile, the one reserved for football victories and Lindsay's surprise visits. Meanwhile, I just stood there, like a guy watching his apartment lease vanish before his eyes. Within minutes, Emma had wiped ketchup on my hoodie, Noah was trying to feed Stanley a crayon, and Lindsay was sipping rose in my favorite mug like this was all perfectly reasonable. My mom turned to me and said, "Ethan, can you help Brad bring in the rest of the stuff from the car?" Stuff? There was more? Oh, buddy. There was more. I thought Lindsay's arrival was a long weekend thing. You know, just until Brad cleared his head, and the kids settled down. Whatever that meant. But Sunday came and went. Monday came, too. By Thursday, there were Dora stickers on the refrigerator, and Lindsay had taken over Mom's yoga room as her personal self-care sanctuary, which I later discovered was just where she watched crime documentaries in her robe while pretending to meditate. Brad set up a monitor at the dining room table, muttering about market volatility, while ignoring Noah, who was trying to eat a coaster. Nobody ever said the word "move in," but nobody said the word "leave" either. And somehow, through the silent magic of Midwestern family dynamics, it was just assumed that the Rhodes household now included 2 more adults, 2 kids under 6, and a growing list of unpaid labor, and spoiler, I was the labor. Let's talk about the kids. Emma, 5, was in her ice queen phase. Every morning, she wore a glittery blue dress and informed me her name was Elsa now, actually. Noah, 3, had the energy of 6 raccoons in a bouncy castle. He cried when things weren't shaped like dinosaurs. Not dinosaur toys, just things. Waffles, soap, potatoes. If it didn't resemble a stegosaurus, he lost his mind. It became clear real quick that I had a new job, unpaid, untrained, unacknowledged child wrangler. "Ethan, would you mind watching them for a few minutes?" Lindsay asked on Saturday. "We just need to run a quick errand." That quick errand lasted 4 hours. They came back holding smoothies and a Target bag full of matching loungewear. Emma had colored all over the coffee table. Noah was naked except for one sock and had learned to scream at a pitch that probably disrupted air traffic. Mom just said, "Oh, kids are so full of life, aren't they?" and started scrubbing a sippy cup. I didn't sign up for this. I wasn't their babysitter. I was just a dude trying to work, save money, and not die in a twin bed. But saying that out loud felt impossible. Every time I even hinted at being overwhelmed, I was met with guilt, Olympic-level guilt. "You're young," Lindsay would say, sighing like she was the one raising 3 toddlers. "You don't get it. You're single," Mom added. "It's not like you've got real responsibility yet." And Brad? Brad called me buddy, like he was handing me a trophy for doing him a favor. "Appreciate you, bud. You're a lifesaver," he'd say, heading off to his second nap of the day. Meanwhile, I was canceling weekend plans, skipping gym sessions, and Googling things like, "How much does a full-time nanny make?" just to torture myself. Even worse? My parents started leaning harder on me, too. Since I was already home, I got stuck picking up prescriptions, unclogging drains, refilling printer ink, and my personal favorite, being asked to fix Dad's fantasy football app before Sunday morning or the world ends. At one point, I had a 12-hour workday, came home, and found myself cooking chicken nuggets while Noah ran in circles yelling, "Poop robot!" for reasons I still don't understand. I stared at those nuggets and wondered, for the first time, if I was losing my mind. Was this normal? Had I blinked and fallen into some alternate universe where younger siblings get tricked into co-parenting by osmosis? I asked my buddy Jake about it, college roommate, now a CPA in Columbus. I sent him a text that said, "How do you know if you've been accidentally adopted by your own niece and nephew?" He replied in under a minute, "Have they climbed on your back while you were using the bathroom?" I replied, "Yes." Jake, my guy, you're in too deep. It was funny. Until I realized I was laughing while scrubbing yogurt out of my bedsheets. Somehow, without ever agreeing to it, I had become essential. Not appreciated. Just expected. No one asked if I had plans. No one thanked me for canceling them. And when I brought up the idea of finally moving out? "Oh, come on," Mom said. "You're not going to abandon us when things are finally settling down, are you?" Settled down? The only thing that had settled was my will to live. I kept telling myself, just a few more weeks. Just a few. I was saving. Almost there. But that illusion was about to blow up faster than Noah's tantrum when the pancakes came out square instead of circular. Because next week? I'd find out the real punchline. While I was paying half the bills and babysitting for free, my family had planned a $3,000 Florida vacation. Without me. And they weren't even planning to tell me. They say everyone has a breaking point. Mine came in the form of a soggy chicken nugget that Noah smushed into my bedsheets, while Lindsay lectured me about Not being supportive enough of their family time. Supportive? I wasn't even getting paid in snacks. I was one diaper blowout away from becoming a cautionary tale for child-free millennials everywhere. So while my family packed sunscreen and matching swimsuits for their $5,000 Florida getaway, I made a plan. Not a tantrum. Not a confrontation. Just an exit. It started with a text to my college friend Jake. Me. What's the deal with that camping trip you mentioned last month? Jake. Still happening. Blue Ridge Falls. This weekend. You in? Me. Count me in. Early departure. No signal. Bring beer. I didn't say a word to anyone in the house. Not Mom, not Dad, not Lindsay or Brad. Let them think I'd finally accepted my fate as the family Manny. Instead, I quietly packed my gear Friday night. Just the essentials: sleeping bag, hoodie, trail mix, the kind of waterproof lighter that makes you feel like Bear Grylls, and one glorious bag of marshmallows that I didn't plan on sharing with anyone. Saturday morning, I set my alarm for 4:30 a.m. I tiptoed around the creaky stairs like I was in a heist movie. Stanley the dog watched me from the couch with mild suspicion, but I bribed him with a slice of cheese and a promise to never tell anyone he secretly loves jazz music. Don't ask. By 5 a.m. I was gone. I didn't leave a note. Not to be dramatic. Just because I owed no one an explanation anymore. The 2-hour drive to Blue Ridge Falls was quiet, except for my playlist, some angry pop-punk, some sad indie ballads, and one Taylor Swift song I will not name under oath. When I got to the site, Jake was already there, setting up a tent with the confidence of a man who once got lost in a shopping mall as a child and never recovered. Dude, he said, tossing me a beer at 7:17 a.m. You look like someone who hasn't slept in a year. I cracked it open. That's because I've been living in a daycare with taxes. The next 48 hours were heaven. No crying. No cartoons. No being called Uncle Ethan while someone peed on my sock. We hiked, grilled questionable meat, told stories we'd slightly embellished, and fell asleep to the sound of wind through the trees instead of iPad alarms blaring Baby Shark. At one point, Jake said, "I haven't seen you smile like this since we all failed that econ midterm sophomore year." And he was right. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Not the babysitter. Not the errand boy. Not the family doormat. Just Ethan. Tired, sunburned, mosquito-bitten Ethan, who still knew how to be alive without someone yelling his name from across the house because they couldn't find their other sock. When Sunday afternoon came around, I debated staying one more night. But the food was running low, Jake had to be back for work, and I figured delaying the drama wouldn't make it disappear. So I drove home, smelling like smoke and freedom. I pulled into the driveway, already expecting it. And yep, there they were. Waiting on the porch like I'd staged a kidnapping. My mom stood up first. Arms crossed. Lips pressed so tight they might have formed a vacuum seal. "Where were you?" she demanded. "No." "How was your weekend?" "No." "Did you bring bug spray?" Just rage. Cold, suburban rage. "You left," Lindsay said, standing behind her. "With no notice. No explanation. Brad and I had to cancel our spa day. We had to call." "Don't say it," I interrupted. "Please don't say it." She said it anyway. "We had to call Child Protective Services." I blinked. "Come again?" Mom huffed. "We panicked. There were no backup plans. 2 small children. Alone. They were with their parents," I yelled. "Your spa day being ruined is not a child emergency." Brad, ever the human thumb, stepped in. "It was irresponsible, man. We needed you. And I needed boundaries." I snapped. The yelling escalated. Accusations flew. Words like selfish, immature, and unreliable were tossed at me like I hadn't just spent the last 6 months doing more parenting than Brad ever had. Eventually, I walked inside, grabbed a banana, and said, "I'll be upstairs. You can keep yelling if it makes you feel better." The best part? They did. I just shut my door and enjoyed my banana in silence. If you've never returned home from a peaceful weekend in nature to be accused of neglecting children you didn't give birth to, I highly recommend it, just for the surreal chaos of it all. Because let me be clear, I never agreed to babysit. There was no schedule, no checklist, no. Ethan, can you please watch the kids while we're out of state blowing $5,000 on daiquiris? None of that. Just silence. Assumption. Entitlement wrapped in SPF 50 and zippered into a beach tote. But when I came home from my trip, the mood was nuclear. Apparently, the moment they realized I was gone, around 8:03 a.m. Saturday, they entered full meltdown mode. Brad tried calling me 5 times. Mom texted, "Where are you? The kids need supervision. This is unacceptable. Your father is very upset. I'm calling someone." That someone turned out to be CPS. Yes, actual Child Protective Services. According to Dad, once I finally got him to admit it, Lindsay was hysterical when she realized I wasn't downstairs playing Snacktime Express. She and Brad had plans, and suddenly those plans required a full investigation into how I'd abandoned my niece and nephew. Never mind that they were both very much alive, eating microwaved mac and cheese and watching cartoons. Never mind that their parents were literally in the house. Nope. Instead, a frantic call was made, something like, "My brother left us without notice and now our kids are at risk and we're overwhelmed and, oh, did we mention he's unstable?" Unstable. That one stung. CPS showed up later that afternoon. From what I gathered, and later confirmed with our neighbor Miss Cheryl, who sees and hears everything, a very confused but polite woman rang the doorbell and said she was responding to a report of child neglect. Brad answered in his swimsuit. Apparently, the CPS agent looked around, saw 2 healthy kids throwing goldfish crackers at each other, and just blinked. She asked, "So where's the person who was supposed to be caring for them?" And Brad, in his infinite wisdom, said, "My brother. But he left." The agent paused. "So, you're their parent, right?" "Yes." "And your wife?" "She's here too." "So, what's the emergency?" There wasn't one. She was in and out in 20 minutes. Probably marked it down as domestic miscommunication, and went home early. I almost wish I'd been there just to see the moment they realized their plan didn't make them look like responsible parents, but like maniacs. When I walked in the door that Sunday evening, they pounced like a pack of overly privileged wolves. "You humiliated us," Lindsay said. "Do you know how stressful that was?" "For who?" I asked. "The actual parents of the children?" "You're not being fair." Mom jumped in. "We trusted you. You assumed I'd sacrifice my time, sanity, and weekend to clean up a mess you made," I said calmly. "That's not trust. That's manipulation." Brad tried to get philosophical. "Families step up when needed. And families communicate," I said. "But that's not what happened here, was it? You planned a vacation, didn't invite me, dumped your kids on me without a word, and then reported me for disappearing from a job I never accepted." Nobody said anything for a second. Then Dad finally chimed in, using his serious voice, the one that's usually reserved for HOA meetings and when the lawn guy trims the wrong hedge. "Ethan," he said, "you're taking this too personally." "Too personally?" I laughed. "Y'all call the government agency on me. I think I'm allowed to take that a little personally." It was like talking to a wall of privilege. They just didn't get it. They weren't sorry. They were inconvenienced. And when people like my family are inconvenienced, they don't apologize. They rewrite the story to make themselves the victims. The kicker? That night, I found my name removed from the family group chat. That's right. They literally digitally disowned me. I screenshotted it. "Send it to Jake," he replied. "Congrats. You've achieved escape velocity." For once, I didn't feel guilty. Didn't feel like the ungrateful one or the dramatic sibling. I felt something better. Done. I didn't make a dramatic exit. No slamming doors. No packing boxes at midnight while blasting "I Will Survive." No inspirational monologue in the living room with everyone crying in slow motion. Instead, I sat down at my laptop and did something truly radical in our house. I made a plan. Step 1. Call Aunt Nancy. Now, Aunt Nancy is the kind of woman who wears oversized sunglasses indoors, refers to wine as hydration, and once got into a passive-aggressive standoff with TSA over whether her hairspray counted as a liquid. But she's also the only member of my family who's ever treated me like an actual adult. So I called her. She picked up on the second ring and immediately said, "Who do I need to slap?" "That's love." I gave her the rundown: Florida trip, CPS drama, emotional gymnastics. She listened, didn't interrupt once, and finally said, "You need to get out of there before they start charging you rent and calling it a character-building exercise." She offered me her guest house in Tampa. No strings, just space. But I didn't need to go that far. I'd already found a small studio apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, exposed pipes, a shower that groans like a haunted spirit, and a view of a parking lot, but it was mine. The rent was manageable, and best of all, there were 0 toddlers with marker-stained hands banging on the door during Zoom calls. Step 2. Stop funding people who treat you like furniture. That week, I sat my parents down and told them I'd be moving out by the end of the month. I also let them know I'd no longer be paying half the grocery bill, picking up prescriptions, or unclogging anything that didn't directly benefit me. The reaction? Mom clutched her pearls, literally. She wears a knockoff strand every time she senses confrontation. "You're abandoning us," she said. "You know we depend on you." "No," I said. "You depended on the version of me who didn't know better. That version doesn't live here anymore." Dad just exhaled and muttered something about kids these days having no loyalty. Lindsay, of course, went full reality TV villain. "Wow," she scoffed. "So you're just gonna walk away from your family? After everything we've done for you?" "Like what?" I asked. "Name one thing." She opened her mouth, paused, then closed it again like a malfunctioning NPC. "Exactly," I said. "I'm not leaving family. I'm leaving people who don't treat me like it." It felt good. Not epic. Not explosive. Just right. A week later, I moved out. Jake helped me carry boxes. I rewarded him with pizza and a 6-pack. He called my new place cozy, which is Midwest speak for small but better than a basement full of emotional landmines. I decorated it slowly: 1 thrifted lamp, 1 framed movie poster, 1 houseplant I named Dave. No more waking up to Paw Patrol. No more grocery lists I didn't write. No more guilt masking as love. I even blocked Lindsay. Cold, yes. But necessary. She texted twice after I moved. "Hey, can you Venmo for Emma's piano lessons? It's kinda your fault she missed a week." Blocked. No regrets. The silence was unfamiliar at first, but not unwelcome. For the first time in a year, I could actually hear myself think. And what I heard was relief. 3 weeks into living alone, I started remembering what peace actually felt like. Like choosing what to eat without negotiating with 3 screaming voices. Like listening to music that wasn't made by a cartoon hedgehog. Like taking a shower without someone yelling, "Ethan, where's the diaper bag?" I didn't realize how badly I needed silence until it greeted me every morning like a loyal dog. And I didn't just settle, I started thriving. My apartment looked like something out of a Pinterest board if the board had a tight budget and a sarcastic sense of humor. I finally bought real furniture, used but solid. A bed with an actual frame. A small desk. A second-hand couch that didn't smell like fruit snacks and betrayal. Even work got better. I started showing up early, taking initiative, getting noticed. I wasn't dragging around resentment and exhaustion like a weighted blanket anymore. For once I had bandwidth. And with that bandwidth came something wild. I booked a trip. 2 weeks in Europe. Italy, to be exact. I'd always wanted to go, but there was always a reason not to: money, timing, someone else's emergency. But now, I had savings, PTO, and a passport collecting dust. Jake and I planned it out. Gelato in Florence. Hiking in Cinque Terre. A cooking class where I'd probably set something on fire. I was buzzing. And that's when it happened. The knock. A soft, familiar knock. I opened the door, and there stood my mom, clutching a small tote bag. Lipstick too bright. That same look she wore whenever she wanted something but wasn't ready to say it yet. "Hi, sweetheart," she said. I leaned against the doorframe. "Hi." She shifted. I was in the neighborhood. Sure. Silence stretched between us like a rope. She glanced at my entryway like she was taking inventory of my independence. "This is a nice place," she said. "Thanks. Smells clean. I mop." She gave a weak chuckle. I heard about your trip. News travels fast." Pause. "I think it's good," she said, "that you're doing things for yourself." I waited for the but. "But I hope you won't forget about your family." There it was. I crossed my arms. "I haven't forgotten. I remember every part of it." "I know things got tense," she said, eyes darting. "But Lindsay's been really emotional lately. She says Emma misses you. Emma misses whoever gave her snacks." I replied. "That's not the same thing. She's 5. And I was 22. I said. "With a job. Bills. A life. But somehow I got treated like the built-in help." Mom blinked hard. Her voice cracked. "I didn't know it had gotten that bad." "You didn't want to know," I said. "And the one time I made space for myself, you called CPS." Her head dropped. "I didn't think it would go that far." "But it did," I said. "And instead of owning it, you doubled down." She finally looked up. "So what now? We don't talk? We just give up?" I sighed. "No. But I don't go back to being the guy you forget to invite, and then expect to do everything for you anyway." She nodded slowly. "I get that. I need boundaries," I added. "Real ones. Not just the kind that disappear when you need something." She took a breath, wiped under her eyes, and for once, just once, didn't argue. "I hope you have a good trip," she said quietly. I nodded. "I will." She turned to go, stopped, and without facing me said, "We messed up. I can't undo it. But I hope you find what you're looking for." I didn't respond. Not because I didn't hear her, but because, for the first time in a long time, I already had. Italy was everything. Florence smelled like old books and espresso. Cinque Terre was a fever dream of cliffs and lemon trees. Jake and I took blurry selfies next to ancient ruins and argued over which gelato flavor reigned supreme, pistachio, obviously. And somewhere between a wine tasting in Tuscany and a Vespa ride that probably voided our travel insurance, I realized something strange. I hadn't thought about my family in days. Not because I was avoiding it, but because they'd stopped being the background noise in my head. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't bracing for disappointment. I wasn't waiting for the next guilt trip, the next favor disguised as helping out, or the next silent demand that I play the role of reliable one. I was just me. We came home sunburned, broke, and completely recharged. And I didn't go back to Cedar Ridge. Not even for a visit. Instead, I threw a little party in my apartment. Just a few friends, some overpriced charcuterie, and a playlist that veered wildly between early 2000s emo and guilty pleasure pop. At one point, Jake raised a solo cup and toasted to Ethan, who finally said no. Everyone cheered. Even Dave the houseplant. And I laughed, not politely, not nervously, just freely. Because saying no had cost me something. Comfort. Familiarity. A sense of belonging, even if it came wrapped in dysfunction. But it gave me something better. Clarity. Peace. The ability to make plans without factoring in someone else's toddler's ballet recital, or my mom's last-minute Costco requests. I sent Aunt Nancy a postcard with nothing on it but "Found the boundary. Staying on this side. Love you." She sent back a keychain shaped like a flamingo and a text that read, "Proud of you. Also, your cousin Jason still owes me $300. If you see him, tell him I haven't died." God, I loved that woman. I won't lie, there were still moments. Lindsay sent a birthday card addressed to Uncle Ethan, with crayon drawings from the kids. She included a note saying, "They miss you. Maybe next Christmas?" I didn't reply. Because missing someone doesn't mean you get to erase how you treated them. Mom sent the occasional text. Neutral stuff. A forwarded meme. A recipe I never asked for. A reminder that the holidays were coming up fast. But I kept it surface level. Polite. But distant. And every time I felt the guilt trying to sneak back in, whispering that maybe I was too harsh, too selfish, I remembered the $5,000 vacation they planned without me. I remembered the CPS report. I remembered being erased. And then I'd look around my small, quiet apartment. At the chipped coffee mug I loved. At the lamp I assembled wrong but kept anyway. At Dave the slightly dying but determined plant. And I knew I made the right call. Freedom doesn't always look like a grand speech or a packed suitcase. Sometimes it looks like not checking your phone every 5 minutes. Sometimes it sounds like silence, and knowing no one's going to bang on your door demanding you babysit during brunch. Sometimes it feels like pasta at midnight in a place that belongs entirely to you. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm just done auditioning for a part in a family that only wanted me when it was convenient. They had me. For years. And they chose to treat me like an afterthought. Now, they're the ones who don't get an invite. And I'm the one who finally gets to breathe.